YouTube gets a cut of it. So as long as that's going up and getting views, then great for them because it pads their bottom line.
Anna's first step was to ask Charles to take down his videos, which included claims about her. She wanted him to apologise and admit that the Skype call did not happen. But the more she pled with him, the more videos Charles made about Anna.
And then I did confront him after that, asking him to retract his statement. But as it went on, I think he really enjoyed the attention that he got from saying these things about me. And his audience loved it, joined in, gave him money to be saying this. He was profiting off the videos.
The social media companies, YouTube and YouNow, weren't taking action. Anna quickly realised that funding a lawsuit was in excess of what she could afford. So she set up an online fundraising page. How are you seeking justice for this?
So I've decided to pursue a slander and defamation case, which is very expensive, and pursuing that has opened up a whole new avenue of bullying. But the slander and defamation cases are upwards of £20,000 to start, really. So I had to crowdfund to do that because obviously I can't afford to just pay £20,000.
That's around $27,000. Anna used the money she raised by crowdfunding to work with a libel attorney from California called Bruce Jacks.
It was a case of classic cyberbullying and harassment, and it was defamatory. Just watching what he was saying and comparing it with what Anna had relayed to me and has continued to share with me, it just seemed very clear that there was valid reason for her to be concerned that she had been truly defamed and that there was little to be done about it other than suing this person.
There's a lot of legal terminology and complications, but to put it simply, this is what happened next. Last April, Anna filed a defamation case against Charles. At this point, Bruce attempted to serve the papers to Charles. What that means is Charles is legally summoned. He's obliged to attend a court hearing, but he needs to be physically handed the papers to do that. Bruce was unable to serve Charles for many reasons, including Charles just refusing to answer the door. In American law, in order to bring someone into a defamation case, you must hand them the papers, which is called serving them.
We actually overall, over the months, made 18 attempts to serve him. In this case, Mr. Marlo Cremedas evaded service, which means he dodged it. So we then requested an order from the court to do what's called service by publication.
That means publishing a legal notice in a local newspaper. Finally, 13 months after Anna filed her lawsuit, Charles filed a response, denying the allegations. So as it stands now, a trial will go ahead.
We need to proceed step by step, and we will. And the judge or the jury would make a decision.
In the meantime, Charles has continued to make videos.
Oh, if she wants to drag this out, we can go to court for the next 10 months. I don't give a
Anna contacted YouNow and YouTube to ask them to remove the material that Vegan Cheeah was uploading about her.
I sent YouNow several emails. They didn't even respond.
Although YouNow did not act upon Anna's reports for months, they did eventually take Vegan Cheeah off the site. I requested an interview with YouNow, but they declined. Instead, they gave me a statement and said,
"We have strict policies against inappropriate behavior, harassment, and illegal activities. YouNow has a multi-layered monitoring system that addresses safety concerns and works to make our community as welcoming as it can be. 24/7 live moderators respond to any issue flagged by the community or detected by our automated systems."
Unlike YouNow, YouTube have allowed Vegan Cheeah to remain on their platform, although most of Charles's videos recently disappeared. Still, Bruce Jacks is frustrated.
It should not have taken this long. In terms of social responsibility, it would be good if the sites would voluntarily begin investigating in a little bit more depth and take more ownership of the content on their site.
YouTube also refused my request for an interview, but like YouNow, they said in a statement,
"We have clear rules and policies against bullying and hateful speech, and we enforce these policies. Our broadcasts are monitored 24/7, and any user who is reported is quickly disciplined."
Social media companies could do a lot better, especially when it comes to protecting the safety of people online. If they have somebody who's constantly reporting incidences, then maybe it might be better to actually look into it and talk to people and actually take reporting seriously instead of just glossing over it, especially if people are coming to them, like I said, repeatedly. It should be something that they take seriously.
Alex Chalk is a British Member of Parliament, and last year he looked into the responsibilities of social media sites.
We are seeing this phenomenon of cyberbullying, which isn't just one episode which passes, but something which can completely dominate and even destroy lives. The idea is, well, that's it. So say the social media companies, we're simply passive hosts. We are just a platform for this stuff and we bear no responsibility for what is said. I don't think that's acceptable anymore, and I think that people have come to recognise that.
Alex was very explicit about the scale of online bullying and the damage on mental health throughout not just the UK, but the world.
There is a wider responsibility. Cyberbullying can be a scarring experience. You can wreck people's lives and their mental health. Social media platforms are not responsive enough. They're not transparent enough about the number of complaints they're receiving, the nature of their response and the timeliness of their response. And that is what's got to become far more rigorous and transparent.
What can social media companies do to be more transparent?
How many complaints are being received, the nature of those complaints, the speed with which they're being processed, and the nature of any response. They've got to be more transparent about those sorts of metrics so that the general public can make a fair assessment about whether they're making all reasonable effort.
Reasonable efforts, Alex Chalk says, would include monitoring complaints and being reactive towards any abuse that might be taking place on social media platforms.
Their business model does not want to see people being kicked off the platforms because, of course, it reduces their advertising revenue, reduces share price, it reduces returns to investors and all that kind of stuff. They want maximum traffic, not minimum.
YouTube have recently started to give more details about the accounts they've removed and the reasons why, in an effort to be more transparent. Back in Milton Keynes, it was clear to me the toll that this episode had taken on Anna's life. She described to me the difference between online bullying and the face-to-face version.
Normal bullying is in real life, takes probably place at a school or workplace where someone can witness it, someone can intervene. In cyberbullying, there aren't really any laws. I had people finding out where my parents go to church, finding out where my partner works. So anytime I would go online, all his fans would just come on and they would call me, any name that you could think of. And I have people that watch my Twitter at all times to see if I'm going to say something that they can report back to him. They look at my Instagram, they look at anything to see if I can say anything that they can use against me.
For Anna, online bullying is actually worse than being targeted in real life because there were people doing it anonymously. She went on to explain that bullies had even emailed her university with abusive comments about her. They had contacted several Holocaust museums, telling them not to employ her. This meant that in Anna's defamation case, she can allege significant loss of potential income from harassment. Throughout this process, Charles has denied all the allegations.
I think we should get this back to start a campaign to fund a frivolous lawsuit, and we'll try to scare them off. It's a bloodbath. It's a coliseum, and the crowd wants to see people get slayed, and that's how we're going to play.
How many people do you think were eventually involved in this?
It's hard to say because that's the thing is people always say block and delete, but who are you going to block and delete? Because people then create several accounts. So it's like playing whack-a-mole basically because you have one person, you block them and then they come back on a different account.
Was there a point where you feared for any of your loved ones?
Oh yeah, I definitely feared for them just because I know the psychological damage it took on me. Cyberbullying becomes inescapable.
Anna feels her story might be able to help other people in similar situations. Despite her predicament, she remains positive.
It's horrifying, depressing, but also empowering. I would say that it's empowering because I've been able to use my voice to speak up for not only myself, but for other people that are going through similar situations.
What do you think is the positive out of this whole experience?
I think one of the positives is that people have seen that they can speak up for themselves and they can advocate for themselves, that it's not something that you have to see all these barriers and decide that you're not going to do it. And I think there's a bit of hope now that you can be online without being harassed in this way. I hope my story gives people some hope that the internet will be a bit of a safer place.
As I mentioned before, the court case continues and a trial is pending. And we'll continue to keep track of the case here on Trending.
Thanks, Jem. If you've been affected by any of the issues we've covered today, then visit our blog on this story. You can find it at bbc.com/trending. And in that story, you can find links to support organisations on online bullying and harassment, which might be able to offer advice and help.